driving that $35 billion every year. I've made a strong enough impact to report to the CPO of a conglomerate. I wasn't even paid. I grew tired of bananas. Carnegie Mellon University, it's super easy to get into. 日本語です。Trilingual. Reported directly to CPO. They're not lies, but exaggerated. I want to show off. Welcome to Pirate King. I'm Daniel, a software engineer at Microsoft, ex-software engineer at Amazon and eBay, and also a pro career mentor at 2 educational startups. Here we talk about tips and tricks on how to land a successful career in tech. In this video, I'm going to walk you through my current resume so that you can see for yourself exactly how I prepare for my jobs. I'm going to use this opportunity to introduce who I am as we go through it together, like where I worked, what I did. My goal is to see if my resume can give a clear picture of my entire career journey to you. Because if it does, it means my resume is indeed effective, and also you have a good sample that you can benchmark against. After this video, I'm going to talk about my software engineering jobs in detail. For example, what I did to land the job at Amazon, how I prepared for Microsoft, how I transitioned internationally from a software engineer in South Korea to one in the US. So if you're interested in my career journey and experiences, don't forget to hit subscribe so that you get notified when they come up. Before I start, my career as a full-time software engineer is about 6 years long, 3 years at Microsoft, 1 year at Amazon, and 2 years at eBay. I did 3 internships before I started my first full-time job, 2 in South Korea and 1 in Japan. So yeah, I'm trilingual. 3 companies, 3 internships in a relatively short career. So why am I saying all this? Number 1, if I worked at 6 companies total, would I have interviewed and got offers from only 6? Number 2, my point is basically, I've done a lot of job searches. And one thing that I've learned by doing so is that you don't really need everything to be perfect to land those jobs, including Amazon and Microsoft. For example, you'll find out soon that a good portion of my resume is actually pretty exaggerated, and I had access to all sorts of insider information even before the interviews actually began. So here they are. The first thing you should notice is how I keep a timeline of my resumes. I have this habit of regularly visiting my resume to keep it up to date. Why? 1, if there's a good project that I worked on recently, I don't want to come back later and scribble it down from my recollection. I want to record it when it's clear and fresh. 2, I want to be ready at all times. It might be a good opportunity, or I might get laid off. Who knows? I want to be ready for any circumstances. And what really helped me keep my resume organized for the past 6 years or so is having a solid first resume. It becomes the core that evolves as you progress in your career. As you can see, all my resumes virtually share the same format. All I did was pruning my resume with more recent, important experiences as my career grew. Just remember, this is best done by having that first solid resume. All right, there it is. This is my current up-to-date resume. And yeah, I know, it's a dark themed version. Now, I wouldn't recommend you do the same with yours and create a dark themed version right away. It's only a few months ago that I all of a sudden had this impulse to go dark theme with my resume. Why? Well, I want to stray away from those mundane white background resumes that pretty much look the same. You know, a way to differentiate mine. But most importantly, I just love dark theme. Again, don't try this, especially if you're still in the early stages of your career. I've decided to take the risk and be over adventurous myself because I'm confident that I have developed enough work history by now. But we should all start off with a core base, and that's the original white background resume. Back to my resume. I have purposely removed my home address email address and phone number to protect my personal data, although I'm pretty sure that they are stolen by hackers already. So my resume starts with the skills section. This is where I put all my work-related, non-trivial skills. Trivial skills are stuff like Microsoft Office, Windows, Mac OS, and Visual Studio Code. If you're a software engineer, don't put those in. I have made the mistake myself too before, but it's like a pianist confessing she knows how to play the piano. So first and foremost, the list of my programming languages. I've been working with Microsoft Stack for most of my career, so there's C# and .NET, my mother language Java. Here's JavaScript for the front-end stuff. My database skills, both relational and NoSQL. And don't forget to include the important libraries and frameworks, such as Node, React, Redux, jQuery, and etc. Azure, cloud computing, and CI/CD. The hottest experience for a software engineer nowadays because virtually everything is going cloud. Don't forget to include the unit testing frameworks. Knowing how to test your code is important. And a small mention of my language skills. To be honest, Korean and Japanese, they don't really matter in the US, especially for a software engineer. But I include them in my resume anyways, because, I want to show off. Going into my experiences. Now, before I elaborate further, I'm going to be honest with you and say that a lot of the things in my resume are exaggerated. They're not lies, but exaggerated. Why? Well, why would a recruiter or hiring manager consider my resume if it's not impressive? I want to catch their eyes and grab their attention with those fancy words so that they give my application a shot. For example, the first bullet point here in Microsoft led the design and development of multiple enterprise-level microservice applications of Commerce Experience Group, driving that $35 billion plus of revenue every year using the latest technologies of Azure, C#, .NET, Cosmos DB, and other crap. First of all, if I really built the entire system that drives that billions of dollars of revenue every year, I wouldn't be here making YouTube videos. But I did take a part in it, and I'm still involved in it. That $35 billion plus number is something that I Googled up too. I just searched for the revenue of Microsoft Office, just to quantify this bullet point and make it look cool. And hey, there you go. Copy and paste. Amazon. I only stayed at Amazon for about a year for various reasons. Don't get me wrong, Amazon is a great company. They give you free Starbucks coffee, $100 to spend on Amazon.com every year, and of course, free bananas. Maybe I can tell you later in another video why I decided to leave Amazon so early, but at this point, let me just say that I grew tired of bananas. Designed and implemented enterprise applications of Amazon Prime's content experiment platforms that allows marketers to perform various marketing experiments using Java, React, AngularJS, AWS, and DynamoDB NoSQL and Prime Engineering Division. First of all, I'm not even sure if there was a division named Prime Engineering Division. I just made one up because I couldn't think of a better name. And again, it's an exaggeration because I'm not solely responsible for building the entire platform. Some of the code base was written in Angular, but to be honest, I've never touched one myself, but it's here. I worked on AWS and DynamoDB only during my last month at Amazon, but it's here too, because, it's cool to have AWS on your resume. And we arrive at eBay, my first full-time job. Same thing with my other experiences, like take a look at this reported directly to CPO part. It's true that I sent emails which included the chief product officer, the vice president of eBay in the email list, but it wasn't an official report of any sort. To give a brief context on what happened, I was responsible as an entry-level engineer for creating a weekly usage report for the company's new payment system. And this kind of report is more convenient by automating it than manually creating one myself every time with Excel and shit. So in order to save myself the hassle, I programmed the dashboard with all the numbers, the data, plus a fancy looking chart at the top that anyone can come and see. But notice how instead of saying I simply worked on it alone, I said the lead engineer driving the entire thing. I've just transformed an entry-level engineer into an engineering lead simply because I built the whole thing. Now, it is true that the platform and the report somehow reached the CPO's ears. I honestly don't know how, as the target audience of the report was meant to be my department only, but it did reach her, and she personally asked me to directly include her in the mailing list. So I did. And made it look like I've made a strong enough impact to report to the CPO of a conglomerate directly. Internships. I did an internship at NCSoft. So for those who do not know what this company is, it's the biggest game company in South Korea. Most well known for creating the MMORPGs like Lineage, Ion, and Blade and Soul. I also did a contract work at a mid-sized game company called CyberStep in Japan. And this is when I studied game development in Tokyo. It's also when I picked up my Japanese. Nihongo desu ka? Lastly, there's another internship that I did, my very first one, but I didn't put it in because, I just don't think it's worth the extra 2 lines at the moment. To tell you the truth, it's called an internship, but it's more like a voluntary work because I wasn't even paid. My dad asked his friend whether he could find an internship for me, and his friend ended up introducing me to an acquaintance of his. The company wasn't willing to pay me, but I still took it because that's how desperate I was. I just wanted that work experience. So the point is, it's usually the first work experience or internship that's difficult to penetrate. Once you get one, it just gets so much easier onwards. After I had the something to write on my resume, I was able to find work in Japan while studying, and from that, an internship at a game giant in South Korea, and then eBay and Amazon and Microsoft, and so on. Education. I guess we can't talk about my resume without talking about my school because education is an important piece of a resume. So yeah, I went to Carnegie Mellon University. I can tell you how I got there, but you probably don't need to because it's super easy to get into. You just need a decent grade in high school math, and I think that's about it. Oh, but it costs like what? $60,000 a year now? So in summary, CMU is an easy school to get into with a huge paywall. In fact, my grades aren't spectacular, but I didn't want to waste so much money on the tuition that I graduated a semester early. Projects. Coloring. So this is a personal game project that I made with Unity when COVID first hit in early 2020. I've always wanted to make my own game sometime, but been giving myself all kinds of excuses not to. But I finally decided to check it off my bucket list because the stay-home order was in place and I had nothing else to do anyways. And to be honest, it's a shitty game. I don't see why anyone would play this piece of crap. But I did spend about a month or 2 learning how to make a game on Unity, Googling, Stack Overflow, or watching YouTube tutorials, just like how all software engineers do. And I even bought a MacBook because you need an Apple computer to put it on the App Store. Let's see if it's still available though. It's called Colorman, a color adventure. Colorman, what a name, huh? And hey, 5 out of 5 stars. It's perfect rating from the 2 customers who actually made the effort to rate this abomination. Me and my wife. If by any chance you're still interested in this piece of crap, try searching for it on your iPhone. For Android, my recollection is that it was removed from Play Store simply because I didn't make the necessary updates. Spike is actually a better game that I created. It's actually much better than Colorman. And look, the game even won an award at an amateur game festival in Japan. I was the only foreigner to win an award out of like what, 100 projects? But I made Spike when I was studying game development in Tokyo. It was a PC DOS game, so my baby never had the chance to see the lights in public. I honestly loved this game and even thought of bringing it to mobile instead of that Colorman shit, but gave up mainly because I couldn't think of a good way to translate those 4 directional keyboard movements onto a mobile touchscreen. Lastly, achievements. This is again something that's not really helpful in the US, but I put it in anyways because I did put a fair amount of effort into them. It's a good reminder and I guess a reminiscence of all the effort that I put in while I was alone in Japan. That bronze award is referring to Spike. The data processing technician is a government certified IT certificate in Japan, and it's not easy to get. The pass rate for the exam that I took is only about 24.5%, and hey, it's all in Japanese. Same thing with the last one, Certificate of Japanese Language Proficiency N1. The test is also called JLPT N1. The pass rate for this test that I took is only about 24.1%. So you can think of this test like TOEFL in the US. The difference is that you do get a score, but the certificate itself is either a pass or fail. And you cannot get an office job in Japan as a foreigner without the certificate because most companies in Japan require it. Lastly, you might think my score is pretty low, 140 out of 180, but actually all you need to pass this test is 100 points out of 180. And because people cannot get that 100 points out of 180, 75% of them fail the test. Yet, hey, my score is 140. All right, we've finally gone through every part of my resume. You might be thinking, hey, isn't this guy showing off too much? Well, you're right. I did show off a bit. I try not to in my real life, at least I don't think I do. But there's a reason why I intentionally showed off in this video. Why? Because this is my resume, and resumes are meant to be show-offs. Think about it. You're trying to sell yourself to the job market. I mean, why are you important? Why are you valuable? Like, what differentiates you from others? What is so special about you, and why should they hire you? There's a difference between showing off and being arrogant. It's a thin line between the two, but a difference that can affect the outcome of your offer. Remember, people love modesty, but they do not hire it. So what do you guys think about my resume? Do you think it's attractive and interesting enough? Let me know what you think in the comments below. Give it a thumbs up if you like this video, and make sure to subscribe if you want more videos like this. Coming up next, I'm going to share how I landed the job at Amazon and what you need to successfully land one yourself. So hit that subscribe and get notified when it's crisp and fresh. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.